Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to the May Forum. As you know, this is a little bit of a business meeting. We also have an end-of-year review, and we have the announcement of some contest winners and an election for board members and so on. So I would just like to begin by telling you a little bit about what's happened this year. This is the second year of my presidency. It's been both a pleasure and a challenge. I keep learning every day. You have helped me with your messages of support, encouragement, and insight through email messages, phone messages, in-person messages of support, your responses to the newsletter, and so on. And your presence at events of various kinds has really delighted me. Your financial contributions have obviously been of great value. This year, we have had several achievements. We had our traditional program readings and workshops in Charleston, here at the Library Society and also at Gage Hall, just down the street. Some of our poets included Tarfia Faizullah, Elizabeth Robin, Angela Jeter, Miho Kinas, Maya Marshall with Richard Allen Taylor, and more. We had a Christmas party this year for the first time in Columbia, and I think that worked out very well also. We had a January open mic here at CLS. And then going out into the community, we visited several libraries, including the Williamsburg County Library, Cherokee County Library, Orangeburg County Library, and others. I'll tell you a little bit more about one of the events that we had at Cherokee County shortly. We hosted a Poetry Month celebratory reading at Cherokee County Library that included Francis Pierce, Janet Kozacek, Nathaniel Wallace, Richard Allen Taylor, Susan Finch Stevens, and I'm sure I'm leaving someone out. We created Poets on Stage, a 3-poet musician combo that we're hosting each month at Good Life Cafe in Columbia. We've had poets such as Elizabeth Robin, Ashley Kraut, Curtis Derrick, Katie Ellen Bowers, Monifa Lemons, and Lawrence Rue, Michael Rubin, Christine Harditson, Al Black, Fran Cardwell, Loli Munoz, Charles Watts. We've also had musicians Lang Owen, Markel Landy, and Josh McGill. And each one of those events also has an open mic for the community to jump in and share something. We joined the River Poets, including Libby Bernadine, Susan Craig, Ruth Nicholson, in a poetry reading at Still Hope's retirement community. It was a very satisfying and uplifting experience. The residents spoke to us of how much they appreciated us coming there and invited us to come again and again, and I believe we will. We joined the Upstate Poets at M. Judson Booksellers. We had 11 poets one night, and I think 9 on another night. We had an outstanding reading. There were, including Ashley Kraut, Gil Allen, Amy Randall, and a number of others. Amy Randall is to be commended for putting together those Greenville events and letting us be part of it. Several of our members have been featured in Poetry of the People this past year, hosted by Al Black for the Jasper Project, which is an ongoing arts project in Columbia, and they have a Jasper magazine. We had an article published in Jasper magazine also about the Poetry Society. I gave a talk to the Columbia Readers and Writers Group, at which I was able to share the work of several South Carolina poets. I brought a whole table full and just spread them out so that they would have an opportunity to see what kind of work our poets are doing, as well as to talk about Jim Lundy's History of the Poetry Society and share some anecdotes from the book, and to also share the Society's ongoing mission and vision. We hosted a poetry reading for African American Read-In Day and Black History Month at Orangeburg Calhoun Technical College, where I am employed as an English, Humanities, and College Skills teacher. That was a thrill and a joy to my heart to have those students stand up and read work by Rita Dove and to enjoy it. Several members gave readings at Mind Gravy Poetry in Columbia, including Ashley Kraut, Katie Ellen Bowers, and others. We celebrated with Al Black his major achievement of 1,000 poetry events that he has hosted. Al and I also meet every week for coffee and have done that for a long time for dreaming and planning sessions. And we've had other informal sessions with Curtis Derrick and others. I filled in for Al Black at Kirkin on the River, which is a celebration of Scottish history. And I do have Scottish on both sides. About 50% of my both sides of my parents have Scottish background, so that was a thrill. I read his marvelous postmodern benediction. And we have joined Al Black at the Friends Meeting House for a few of his ongoing poetry events there, which is the first Tuesday of every month. And he always gives me a chance to talk about the Poetry Society. We hosted our fall and spring contests with marvelous results. I believe we had over 400 entries and 17 contests or so. I'd like to thank Charles Watts for all the work that went into organizing, collecting poems, assigning judges, making announcements, giving reports, and more. This is Charles's last round of contests that he will be administering. We'll have someone else doing that work. I think Jim's going to talk about that a little later. I would like to thank Buxton Books for continual support, either bringing books here or having us there for a reception. They will be doing that again this evening. After we finish, we can go there and get a copy of John's books and enjoy a little time talking to him, and there might be wine involved. Thank you to Ed Gold for monitoring and administering, collecting work for the Skylark contest. I would also like to thank Della Watson and her wonderful articles for us that were published this year in the Holy City Center and in My Low Country. We had Poetry Trails. I forgot to talk about that. Poetry Trails is an initiative started by Christina Bomas, one of our board members, and we have been to several parks now across the state. The most recent ones included Edisto Beach State Park Campground, Callahan Park, which is in Kingstree, and Swan Lake Iris Gardens. Each one of those an absolute joy. And when I was at the Edisto Beach State Park Campground, they encouraged me to go over and see Botany Bay. And I fell in love with Botany Bay. I could stay there for a very long time. So these travels are helping us appreciate and love our landscape and love what is here. And of course, to write about it. And I would like to say thank you to Danny Sciartino, who has been a sponsor of several of our prizes for the Poetry Trails contest that we have. He's been so generous as to give us, up to this point, 4 beautiful guitars from his collection. And Charles Watts has won the most recent event, so he will be receiving his guitar, which I believe he is giving to his son who wants to learn guitar. So thank you to Danny. He has also given us amps and coffee makers and all kinds of other things. So we really appreciate Danny. We have, as you know, maybe created the new Every Corner, Every County reading series, which actually started last weekend in Georgetown at the Georgetown County Museum with Kimberly Sims. We have 2 of those events coming up this summer at Georgetown. One is with Evelyn Berry at the Georgetown County Museum, and the other is with Marcus Amaker, names that you may know. And then we have a number of other events throughout the year in the Midlands, in the Upstate, and back in Charleston. So we're also making new contacts for the future. I stumbled into Hurricane Coffee Company the other day, and they are interested in doing events with us. That's in Goose Creek. So this is just a few of the things that have happened this year, and I am eager for next year to see what we can accomplish together. Thank you again for your support of various kinds. At this time, I believe, Jim, you're going to take over.
Well, thanks, Tamara. If it sounds like she has been busy, it's because she has been busy, very busy. So I'm going to conduct the the election of the new board for the 2024-2025 calendar year. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about history. This is the 711th meeting of the Poetry Society, and it happens to occur on they're doing an exhibit right now on the Charleston Renaissance, which of course the Poetry Society was right in the center of. So if you look in these display cases, maybe you'll get a chance afterwards. All of these are the cream of the crop of the Poetry Society members and their books. You'll see all of the names that you recognize in those cases. The absolute center of that Renaissance, which was really very important in the South, was started with us, with the Poetry Society. So I like to talk about 100 years ago this month. 100 years ago, May of 1924, the Poetry Society was meeting just like we are tonight to talk about the winners of the contests. And one of the contests, a big contest that we used to sponsor for the first 3 years of the Poetry Society, was called the Blind Man Prize. And it was sponsored by an extremely rich individual from Pittsburgh who, it was $250 in the early 1920s. In today's dollars, that's over $4,500. So you can imagine winning a prize like that. Right now, our biggest prize is the Skylark Prize at $500. So, and the winner of that is going to read for us tonight. But you can see that that prize was the second largest prize for poetry in the country after the Pulitzer. So it was actually announced on the radio in New York City when it was announced. So the winner of the Blind Man Prize that night was Joseph Auslander, who was early in his career, but he would go on to be the Poet Laureate of the United States from 1937 to 1941. He was widely published, and he was married to Audrey Werdeman, who was I think still has the distinction of being the youngest winner of the Pulitzer Prize in poetry. She won that when she was 24 years old. Now, in honor of that, I've got door prizes, and if you look at your programs, on the back, there's a list of the board members. And if you look at the recordings and at the corresponding secretary, you should see a blank line, but two of you will see a name. One of you will see Joseph Auslander, and the other will see Audrey Werdeman. So who won the door prizes tonight? All right.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. We did not plan that. Come up and...
Susan and Rich left, everyone.
Yes. Congratulations.
I have proof if you like to see. Sure.
Oh yeah, I believe you. Yeah. Nobody would cheat for those door prizes, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to conduct the election. So this year we have a few longtime board members stepping off. One is John Byrne, who is here tonight. He has been on the board for 5 years, and he's going to have to step off the board. We will miss him greatly. He's been a rock for the last 5 years, and we're also losing Danielle Verwers, who's on the board for 2 years, and she is up in Columbia. She's a very positive and well-spoken person. I always appreciated her comments at our board meetings. And we're also losing Shana Shanes, who wasn't a board member, but she was running the writers group for the last couple of years. And we wish them all well. So this is technically an election, but it is kind of a rubber stamp. We have chosen the board for the coming year, and here's the slate. President, Tamara Miles. Vice President, Glennis Redmond. Treasurer, May Jim Lundy. Recording Secretary, Loli Minoz. Corresponding Secretary, Katie Ellen Bowers. And 6 members at large: Amy Alley, Al Black, Chris Blackman, Tina Bamas, Ashley Kraut, and Charles Watts. Of those, the new members of the board are Amy Alley, Al Black, Chris Blackman, and Katie Ellen Bowers. The others are returns from this year. So if we could have a vote now, all in favor of the slate as presented for the 2024-2025 calendar year, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, it's unanimous. We have a new board. And that's all I have. So next we're going to get Ed Gold up here to talk about the Skylark and the winners of the spring contest.
Thanks, dude. Who is that masked man? Terrible cold. I didn't want to make you all sick. Skylark is the best thing in the world. It is just so much fun to do. It's just great. Gives us all hope for the future. This was the first year in my experience that we've done it without Oliver Bowman. And we're not sure. He did it for 30 or 35 years. He did it. He passed it on to me about 10 years ago. I'm already 76, so I think it's a record that's unassailable, but I'm going to keep going. But as this year, our wonderful judges, we had Ellen Hyatt and Susan Finch Stevens, who did the initial cut. And then Kit Loney, our wonderful final judge, came through again for us. And what I'm going to do now is introduce Kit to introduce Nora Green, who is here, our Skylark winner from the Charleston County School of the Arts. She's going to read her poem for us, but Kit's got some remarks. Then I'll come up and I'll be Charles after that.
I am always grateful to be part of this contest. It is an incredible honor just to read the work, and I'm always just so blown away by the level of what is being done by high school students in the state. And I have such appreciation for the teachers who get this caliber of work from their students, and for the students who do the hard work that it takes to write a good poem. I want to also thank Susan and Ellen and Ed for all the work that you did before these came to me. And I'm happy to say that it's always a difficult choice. There were 2 honorable mentions. One is crosswords and war, and the other honorable mention, we must be in the harvest again. The winning poem, What We Are Worth. It begins with an epigraph. The alligators were coaxed into their summer quarters by plump little Africans. This is quoted from Ferris State University's alligator bait. That such a thing was ever even contemplated, let alone practiced, is staggering. But before we can recover from our disbelief, the poet has set about bringing this scene to life, writing a picture of babies babbling in the pluff mud and cattails. We are told that the mothers were paid $2, and we are told that the babies had to be black babies because the white ones were too fragile. By the end of the poem, this image has been juxtaposed with a photo of the narrator's own infancy, held, protected, cherished. At the heart of the poem, at the end of the second stanza, we are offered an image of the babies in the swamp, oblivious to reptilian peril, laughing at fiddler crabs, their heads haloed with mosquitoes. It is an image I find harrowing and vibrant and resonant, one that a reader might hold a while and contemplate, and that is no small feat. I tried to paraphrase some of that because I don't like to read the poem before the poet gets to read it. So I felt like there was a lot more I could say, but I wanted just to let the poem speak that. And I am so pleased that the poet is here with us this evening. Nora, and I don't remember your last name. Nora Green. Well, congratulations for a fine piece, and you'll all get to hear it.
I'm also recovering from a cold, so please excuse the hoarseness in my voice. But hello, my name is Nora Green, and I'm a sophomore creative writer at Charleston County School of the Arts. My poem is titled What We Are Worth, and I wrote this poem in response to a prompt that we were given last year by my creative writing teacher, one of them, Miss Danielle DeTaveris, and we are told to write a political poem, a poem that combines politics with poetry. I personally chose to write about a topic that I first saw on social media, and I used this assignment as an excuse to really go more in depth in my research. I hope you enjoy my poem. What We Are Worth. The alligators were coaxed into their summer quarters by plump little Africans. This is found in Ferris State University's article titled Alligator Bait. Alligator bait, known as black babies, sat by creeks in South Carolina marshes, babbling and gnawing on cattails, their worth equivalent to reptilian leather. And when their mothers have their monthlies, they think of the babies who sleep on the riverbeds, who grab at tapered teeth and dangerous mouths to stay afloat and pluff. They said $2 were paid to a mother, and the shooters never missed. The gators just couldn't resist the chubby babies. Dark brown, chocolate, delectable. They said white babies weren't as good, their porcelain skin too delicate for the swamp. And for once, Black people were better at something. Little babies on hands and knees, giggling at fiddler crabs shuffling beneath their feet. Summer mosquitoes halo their soft heads. Mom has photos of my birth, tucked into faded folders and stuffed into her closet. And my favorite, her face is stained with salt. She looks tired, worn by the months of work, and I see how much she loves me. In the photo, she held me to her chest, wires webbing her hospital bed, and a pink and brown newborn, safe in her arms, from marsh grass pricks and beetle stings, far from cypress swamps and the men that want to harm me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. And the mother in that poem is here today. Toya is here. Thank you for bringing us this wonderful poet. This is great. Really wonderful poem. Thank you. And you're only a sophomore. You might win it next year. Who knows? All right, now I'm becoming Charles Watts. I'm not going to make any comments about that. But what I want to do now is, you know, Charles has run the other contests for years and years and years. Although I hear now this will be his last year. And he's not able to be here tonight, so he asked me to read the winners. And I'll tell you, I'll give you a judge's comment on some of these too. I'm looking around, I'm not sure anybody's here tonight, but maybe we are, I don't know some of you. The South Carolina Nature Conservancy Prize was won by Deborah Daniel, one of our favorites. The Brumation of Alligators, speaking of alligators. The judge's comment, smart and clever take on preserving nature, even the nature we fear or hate. An honorable mention went to Elizabeth Robin. The Scotty Davis Watson Prize was won by Ruth Nicholson. When Shrimp Plants Last Near the Carport Bloomed. Nice title.
Ruth is here on Zoom tonight.
When Shrimp Plants Last Near the Carport Bloomed. And Ruth is here on Zoom. We hear, hello, Ruth. Let's round of applause. The judge's comment, with cinematic verve, a morning moment one could easily neglect until sunlight at a precise angle calls us back to the things of the world. And Deborah Connor, Lisa Sloan, Mary O'Keefe Brady, and Al Black won honorable mention for that. Wonderful, Ruth, congratulations. The John Robert Doyle Jr. Prize was won by Brian Slusher. Volcano Wedding was the name of the poem. The assonance of O sounds roils this poem nearly over the edge, finely crafted at the ledge of lava. Tim Conroy, Deborah Daniel, Lisa Sloan, and Patty Conroy also won honorable mention for that prize. The Peter Pan Prize, Deborah Connor, Tree Lighting, judge's comment. To me, every experience of childhood is indelibly here. Tragedy, comedy, compassion, resentment, nostalgia, clear-sightedness, all wrapped up in a Christmas memory that rings true to all of us, even those whose memories run different. Honorable mention to Harold Oberman and Grace Claire, how does she pronounce her name? Prziwara? Oh, okay. Congratulations. The Rhyme for No Reason contest, Brian Slusher. Ragged Point, excellent use of rhymes and near rhymes, but I especially love the way the poet works personal, intimate details into the poem. Honorable mention went to Frances Cardwell. Okay, two more. The Dr. Linda Veldheer Memorial Prize. How old is that one? That's
Goes way back.
way, way back. Lisa Sloan, Surviving the Arrow. Judge's comment. Excellent modern sonnet. This poem does what so many great poems do. It starts with mystery and darkness and ends in brilliant enlightenment. And Lawrence Rue won honorable mention. And, oh, Bobby Kennedy Memorial Prize, Francis Pierce for Dilemma. For its elegant, pared-down simplicity and the way it portrays our dilemma as humans, as blind negotiators, being both inside and outside of nature and its relentless pursuits. Honorable mention went to Christina Balmas and Elizabeth Robin. So congratulations to all the winners and all the honorable mentions, and thank you all, and we'll do this again next year.
That is not a huge return. Congratulations to everyone. And congratulations just for submitting a poem, which I think is a brave and meaningful act. All right, I need my notebook. Jim? I bought this. It's called a high performance planner because I need it. It involves a lot of reflecting at the end of the day and all kinds of wonderful things like that. So I was listening to an interview, an old interview from probably 10 years ago with our guest poet tonight, John Hoppenthaler. I enjoyed it so much. He was sharing about what he expected a poem to offer to an audience, how to engage that audience. Talked about the sonic value of poetry. He also shared a poem that he said at the time, he didn't read out loud very much, The Girl Next Door, and I enjoyed it so much that I was closing my eyes thinking about the girl whose hair smelled like a creamsicle from the ice cream truck, which is one of the images that he used. It was wonderful. It was a poem about It's a persona poem. He says he usually writes in persona about seeing someone after years, seeing someone again that maybe you knew in childhood, or you go to your high school reunion, which can be terrifying for all of us. I recently went to my 40th high school reunion. Had a great time. Anyway, I love listening to you talk about your work. I love listening to you read, and we will enjoy listening to you again tonight. Now, you have John's biography in your program. I just wanted to add that I learned in the interview today that John was at one time the personal assistant for years to Toni Morrison. Wow, right? And incredible. And he is a teacher, and I was looking over his courses. I don't know if you teach any courses online that our members could sign up for. No.
A summer lit course every year, and it's online asynchronous. It's like recorded lecture.
Okay, because he teaches advanced graduate poetry, 20th century poetry, advanced undergraduate poetry, introduction to fiction writing, Black women poets, and interpreting literature, and much more. I would love to be in one of his classes. He has won many awards, among them the ECU Harriet College of Arts and Sciences Reassignment Award, April 2021, ECU 5-Year Research and Creative Activity Award, February 2018, 2016 Brockman Campbell Award for the best volume of poetry published by a North Carolinian in 2015, ECU Department of English Excellence in Research and Creative Activity Award for 2014 and 15, Gilbert Chapel Distinguished Poet for the Eastern Region of North Carolina for 2010 and 2011, West Virginia Division of Culture and History and West Virginia Commission on the Arts Fellowship Award for Excellence in the Field of Literature in 1998. A highly accomplished writer, essayist, editor, teacher. Welcome, John Hoppenthaler.
Aloha, y'all. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Jim. Sorry Glennis isn't here. We were both writers in residence at the Chautauqua Institution a few years, some years ago. She's not been in good health, is that right? She's doing better? Great. All right, here we go. So my new book is called Nightwing Over Metropolitan Area, and the title comes from a painting, which is also the cover, and it exists in the North Carolina Museum of Art permanent collection. Nightwing Over Metropolitan Area after Yvonne Halim Jacquet. Wing of a blackbird, wing of a crow. If I seem a vulture sometimes on the wing, adrift toward carrion, indistinct architecture of loss, its ambiance, the hydraulic whine and thud of the landing gear, absence of towers, moderate tremor of shear and turbulence, no, not buildings. Only insistent light that props them up, their corporeal bodies dissolved, enormous emptiness, which itself is full of color, ghosts of light beyond emptiness, that which defines them, that which looms outside the frame, space between us, the pregnant darkness of our city, and a million tiny votives that oppose. The nightwing hangs, sags toward you with gravity, weight of 1,000 corpses, screech of a virus, that shrill hawk as I circle in a holding pattern, and all I can see is primary color, pointillism of what's left behind or flown toward, fugitive colors, especially the blue rims of your eyes. I lift or descend, and it seems the same. Proximity may as well be absence. Arrival means another place has been left behind, and I'm taking off or landing to deliver what support I can. We are two dark birds together, keeping raptors at bay. There, out over the river. superstition. Who has turned the jade elephant's head from the door? That won't do with a gunman still on the loose. Herons flapping too close to the house, so I turned fire tongs for luck. Cast table salt into flames. I spent the whole night pointing at the moon before I could fall asleep. Creamy light shining on my face. But by morning my OCD flared again. I tapped my forehead 3 times, wrapped the door frame. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Mostly I have it under control. Most of the time I only do it once. When the 3rd heart attack killed my father, I knew it was a liar. I could finally let up. All that dread had no place and the wound seemed to heal. My father died doing what he'd been told not to do. He fell to the snow he'd cleared from his car. He died on a mattress of snow. Not even the scar I'd scored into my chest with a silver crucifix had the power to save him. When the snow melted and dried, I swept dust from the spot into an envelope. Mom sold the house and moved away. Years later, I mixed that dust with flour and baked coarse bread. I put some on my tongue and let it dissolve. I swallowed with wine and waited, fixed the elephant's green head toward the door. I was lucky enough to get a blurb from Roseanne Cash, the singer-songwriter, Johnny Cash's daughter. 1 degree of separation, right? And that was one of the poems she talked about in her blurb. One of the themes in this new book and in the previous book have to do with my stepson, who I married really late in life, just a few days before I turned 50, and never thought I wanted children, and sometimes still don't think I want children. But nevertheless, my wife came with a child, so I became a father. And it was just a couple of years later when we found out that he has some serious mental illness issues, Tourette's, nonverbal learning disorder, OCD, ADHD, and all of which leads to anxiety and self-harm, and the story. And naturally, when you're a poet, you want to write about the things happening in your life. You mentioned, in that earlier interview, that I read a lot of persona poems, and I still write a few, but the last few books have been a lot closer to the bone, as far as what I'm writing about. But I wasn't comfortable writing about these things, and because I didn't have his permission. And so, one day I asked him, I said, "Is it okay for me to write about this?" And he didn't think about it long. He said, if it helps people to understand what people like me deal with, then you have to do it. And so your daydreaming child. Aren't you mad when the note comes home from school? You have a problem, child. Instead of finishing math or science, he's wasting time. Aren't you so damned angry that you yell and threaten, scream, why the hell can't you just pay attention? But your child is completely at attention, fully present, and dealing with the fear that his left arm is longer than his right. He's trying so hard to make them even. Under the desk, he's sticking himself with a pin or struggling to force the tips of his index and middle fingers to line up. Try it yourself. Try to push your index finger forward out of its socket. Keep at it. If you manage, maybe it's true that an arm can be stretched into compliance. He knows the teacher's glaring at him that the period is almost over, and so the period is almost over ritual kicks in, the spiral notebook's edge lined up with the rim of the desktop, 3 Ticonderoga pencils back to back, number 2s in their ovals, each eased 1/4 turn toward the wall clock to push along the minute hand. It's been going on like this for months. Now, And exactly 3 minutes before the bell goes off, he has to count the cursive letters of the alphabet taped above the chalkboard. A for apple, 1. B for balloon, 2. C for canary, 3. It is his own kind of math, but he can never get it to add up. It's the dreaded new math with which you both must now contend. You must open the book and learn it together. I'm here to bum you out. Any Van Morrison fans out here? Some of the older folk, yeah. Bourbon fans? Not so many. Huh. Usually bourbon gets more votes. This is called Bourbon Cigarettes, Van Morrison, Lake Anna, Virginia. The winds picked up, rattling half-dead leaves, snapping off acorns that clatter through branches and thud to the ground. Wasps circle the screened-in porch, probe corners, and the sky's brief flirtation with blue has passed behind the gray shade drawn over hills beyond the lake's far shore. Every now and then, a gust catches the ceiling fan's wicker paddles, and they turn slowly. It's nearly too obvious. Autumn begins in beauty and ends with a cold rainstorm in late November, too dismal to mean anything else but winter. I'd forgotten how music can shift a body into depression like this, how memory clings like cigarette smoke to a damp sweater, and rain begins drilling at the roof. Van Morrison's given way to only that percussion, whiskey's flame in my belly. My mother no longer speaks, but she grins horribly at the nursing home. Flick spit those days when she fails to recognize me. The wasps have given up. Eventually, so does the rain. You guys doing all right? A walk by the old house before visiting the nursing home. The crepe myrtle and how it got there. Its blooming seemed to take forever. Keep an eye on every crack in the sidewalk. The rosemary has grown enormous. One might grind a sprig under a sneaker. Later it laces the common room's stale afternoon air. Your other eye is, of course, focused on a godforsaken prize. You'll break your mother's back and then some. See how awfully she wants to go home. She envies you, the ratty sneakers. How just now you seem capable of anything. So since my book came out, my latest book came out in October, I've been on the road a lot, all through the Rust Belt, upstate New York, Hudson Valley, New York, all through North Carolina. I just got back from a residency at Wofford College and gave a reading there, and my wife isn't happy. One of the places, well, she likes the money, but one of the places where I wrote a chunk of the last book was in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, of all places, where there's an artist colony called Dairy Hollow. And it was a beautiful weekend day and, morning, and I woke up and, this is great. What I didn't know about Eureka Springs is that on beautiful weekend days, motorcyclists come into town from the nearby areas. And it's not like Hell's Angels or anything. These are like, average Joes and Janes, often older. And so anyway, they got into this love poem for my wife, which also contains, some of you may remember Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf, Easy Rider movie, so that gets in here too. It's got a kind of bad word in it, I'm sorry. Nocturne for Christie. Last night, a barred owl swept across the road, plunged into the hillside, then ascended. Some rodent, its clock run out in its beak. The owl settled into the nearby crook of an oak and consumed it at its leisure. For 20 minutes or so it perched there, the occasional swivel of its head my way, pale face under a pale half moon, sizing me up, near drunk at the railing. Lord knows it could have been the alcohol. But I was at mass, a kind of rapture. Earlier, the roar, distorted road music, bike after bike rolling through Eureka, startling birds and the poets. I'd seen two eat pussy, not pavement t-shirts in the space of an hour. Born they are, but not so wild as they dream to be. Long gray beards flapping in the breeze, leather-clad women clutching behind them, tanned arms wrapped around prodigious midsections, pressed tight, keeping their motors running. And now it all seems less dire. Pale face under pale half moon, a fierce plunging, keen desire in you so far away for so long now. These spring leaves, owl in their veiling, wet road shining below, and I'm wrapped at the edge of the railing. Any of you ever go to Mitchellville in Hilton Head? It's this old abandoned village where slaves who were kind of left when the Union Army came and were abandoned set up a place to live, and it's just a wonderful. There's some fake houses and stuff there now, and some plaques and whatnot, but. Among those things, I worked for Toni Morrison for 9 years, and the Toni Morrison Society at one point created this thing called Bench by the Side of the Road program. And Toni had a lecture that she talks about there being no place for Black folk to go and contemplate their history, and no little bench by the side of the road. And so you guys live close to Hilton Head. Next time you get there, seek out Mitchellville and set a spell on that bench. Toni would be happy about it. The last poem in my new book is an homage to Toni, but it's too long, so I'll end with this one instead. Happy hour at Joey Roma's restaurant and bar. The guy at the end of the bar who'd been drinking vodka martinis for 2 hours swiveled his stool as if making a difficult decision and had just decided to act. Bathroom break, I thought. But he tottered onto the riser in the corner, dropped his ass down on the bench, and bent into the yellowing keyboard of the scarred piano balanced near the edge. It doesn't matter what he played. It could have been any old standard, but the thing is his delicate interpretation. How everyone stopped talking to listen for 5 minutes or so before he collapsed into a discordant heap. And then how most looked away and resumed conversations, ordered another round, twirled spaghetti on a fork. It all seemed part of the act. Nothing to see here, and when in Romans. I've always wanted to be that stranger who materializes in a bar, has a few cocktails among locals, then sits down before the altar of all sad melodies, cracks his stiff knuckles, and begins to play. That's all. Thanks. The cool reason I'm here is to help select the Forum Prize winner this year, and I was lucky enough to bring some really great poems down to 3 that I felt were best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the poem, and then I'll say a few things about each one. Then you guys get to vote and pick the winner. I'm glad I don't have to do that. And so these are in no particular order. I'll read the Geology of Prayers first. First prayer, was it God's? A prayer uttered over his own yearning to see how pliable the chaos, how saturated with life it could be. A prayer pressed into void, the mesospheric prayer under layer upon layer of creation, sealed by breath and word. Even so, I dig with my hands through crust and mantle, sense the prayer at the blood magma core. Like Jacob, I hear the prayer rise in the night, so I wrestle the prayer, let it roil and erupt, shift internal, feel the movement of the holy and tectonic plates. This prayer breaks my bones that I will leave as proof of my existence. Words spill over my lips, echo off every sacred outcrop and crevasse. Our Father. One day they will find my prayers, the ones so long trampled underfoot, pressed into mud, fossilized in geostrata of grit and bone granite. Gaping metal mouths will excavate these layers, unearth my prayers, pile one upon another, as 1,000 prayers. Loose their shimmer heat rising, spiral upward, ancient star husks clinging to each syllable in search of its origin. So, among the many things to like about that poem, I'll just read what I wrote. At first glance, given the poem's long lines that extend nearly to the right-hand margins, I thought this was a prose poem, but I was wrong. Like, say, C.K. Williams in Tar, these lines are thoughtfully crafted and the line breaks are intentional. The poem's sonic texture, the rhymes and use of assonance and consonants work hand in hand with the poem's juxtaposition of religious spirituality, that yearning, and the scientific language and shifting mystery of geology. The next one I'll read is Under Any Moon. Under Any Moon. Taking time out from recaps of the playoffs and forecasts of the fate of our republic, we thread the weave of overpass and highway decked with images of sacred dancers amid the flora and fauna of the desert. Our road trip helps us enter the worlds before the horse and gun and sync our sense of time with ancient ruins where the sun and moon suggest mysterious links between now vanished residents of earth and skies above, yet hardly clarify why all the bother in the first place. Stonehenge comes to mind and Abraham's prompt exit from Chaldea, where stargazers thought to understand what powers above might guide the world below. Here, Chaco Canyon architects aligned a sandstone complex with celestial pathways, solstice and equinox and lunar cycles. It takes a while to process why I'm here beside my son, who finds our way and drives to the interstate and back roads, through my father's post-war restlessness, though my father's post-war restlessness made it all happen once upon a time. His fungible profession tells us why we dared to move across the country, but I was still surprised to learn of loans my frugal Scottish granddad gave him for the car that took us west and our adobe home in Tucson. Though he could strike a note of fear and wonder Sunday mornings, he never earned more than a modest dollar, glossing Where your treasure is, there your heart be also. Who knew or cares what memory contains, but can't explain in any other way that matters now? Unless another shares the fear and wonder of it all again under any moon on planet Earth. So, about that poem, I think the poem skillfully employs the power of enjambed lines, as opposed to end-stop lines, to propel longish sentence down the page. And this suits the poem, which is at its core a road trip poem, a journey poem about transformation and growth. This poem's speaker, his son in the driver's seat and his father and grandfather there too in memory, becomes attuned to the fact that he is there beside his son because under any moon on earth, the cyclic nature of life goes on. Realizing your days of growth are nearly at an end is itself a kind of growth, which I'm learning. An anticipation of our last moments of transformation. And then finally to Stravinsky on our birthday. Igor Fedorovich, each June 17th I think of you, salute your photo with a slice of birthday cake, and wonder if we might have been simpatico, two Gemini folk after all. As I listen to Rite of Spring, I confess how dissonance in music can unmoor me. But your style, chords propelled by pounding primal rhythms, twins my restless soul. Are you in heaven? I trust you are. Does God love you as he loves J.S. Bach? Commission new work from you? Another symphony of psalms, perhaps? A prudent move, that piece, embracing the sacred. I mastered its alto part just before you died. Since then, events have dulled the luster of our anniversary. Watergate break-in, Mother Emanuel massacre, wrong notes sounded, can't be silenced. What to compose or sing this day? Take heart, Igor. We rendezvous in spirit each 17th of June with Charles Gounod, MC Escher, James Weldon Johnson among the brightest candles on our cake. I'll never join the ranks of stellar Geminis, but I hang their portraits next to yours, eager to keep the cohort close and mute the world's disharmony. So what I found about this poem, that its subtle but effective use of rhyme, assonance, and consonants creates compelling sonic texture that's appropriate to a poem, of course, that references and honors music while attempting to hold at bay its opposite. On another layer, the poem also, again subtly, honors the self, the poet's birth and place in a constellation of other artists that share the days of his birth, the day of his birth. And that's nice. So those are your three choices, and now it's all up to you.
You could circle the title on the first page and just tear the page off, and we'll collect them. So just circle the title of the poem you like the best on the first page. All right, someone's going to collect them. And as soon as we can count, we'll tell you one. John, in the meantime, could you talk about your workshop for a minute? Oh, sure. Tomorrow? By the way, in case you, if you notice, the date of the workshop is wrong on both pages of it's tomorrow morning, it's not today. The program says May 10th, it's May 11th.
Yeah, no, I hope you guys will come. After judging the contest and seeing that most of y'all tend to write in free verse or unmetered rhyme in some cases, I thought maybe a workshop on the line itself as a unit would be of some interest. So it's called Every End a Beginning, working with the free verse line. And, you know, we think of free verse, right? And, you know, verse libre from the French. But when you're serious about your craft, you realize that free verse isn't so free at all. I mean, you're free to turn verse, you know, to kind of turn the line where you want, but what things go into the choice of breaking the line in that place, right? And it really depends on a lot of things. If you're using some sort of formal structure, of course, you know, there are rules, right? I tend to write in syllabic structure a lot, so I love working in an 8-syllable line, so that often dictates, you know, what my lines are going to look like. But so anyway, it's a workshop that'll talk about architecture of poems, about the line, and you know, about, you know, how do you create a sonic texture without end rhyme and meter, right? Those kind of things. And I've also got a little writing prompt we can do at the end and a little exercise on line breaks. So again, hope you guys can come tomorrow.
And that's right here at the Library Society, 10 o'clock to noon. So I hope you can join us for that. The winner of the forum was Ruth Nicholson at the Tushchivinsky on her birthday. Ruth is here watching tonight, so congratulations on that. And the honorable mention went to Larry Rue, and I don't think he's watching, but congratulations. And that was the Moon poem, the Under Any Moon. So congratulations to Ruth and Larry. And with that, we're done with the forum. We're also done with our calendar year. So thank you. It's been quite something, and we're going to start right away. In fact, we already have, due to a little snafu with scheduling. But so anyway, thanks. This has been another night for history here.
Thank you, Jim. And everybody come down to Buxton Books.
Yeah, we're going to go down to Buxton now.